Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you choose to read your clock, this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this middle of the night or early morning bonus upload, shall we? Today's first encounter. I remember that night very vividly. I was about 5 years old. I used to live in an older house that backed directly into these deep woods, just miles of trees. My mother and I always enjoyed walking those woods. Well, one night we went on what we called an adventure and went for a walk around dusk. Now, this wasn't unusual for us. We weren't far from the house, but it had become dark and started to storm. We decided to head back. When we got to the clearing that my house was right above, we heard something in the brush behind us. It sounded like a wounded animal at first, this deep groan. When I turned to look, this huge creature of some kind, be it I was very small. It was dark and storming, so I couldn't get a great look before my mom picked me up. As she's running up this hill to get to our backyard with me in her arms, I could hear heavy breathing, as if it was right on my neck, and something galloping closer, as though it was right behind us. I was facing backwards in my mom's arms. I opened my eyes one last time to see something that looked very large, even when I was on higher ground. She ran up the hill until we got into the house. I never really enjoyed those woods. Sometimes, at night, I'd hear yelling or screaming. My old German shepherd was always very uptight in the clearing. I witnessed the creature in. She would bark and growl at what we thought was nothing. To this day, my mother has told me it was a coyote, but I don't really believe her on that. Today's second encounter is a subscriber's submission. Hey Jeff, first of all, a little background info. I'm located midway down the west coast of Florida, Pinellas County, west of Tampa, north of Sarasota, south of Pasco County. Now, the only land access is from the north. To get here from Tampa requires a ride over a bridge, same as Sarasota. Pinellas isn't rural largely, it's basically a suburb or many suburbs. St. Petersburg is my town, but there are many towns in the county. We have the Rays Baseball Club. If you follow baseball, you know where I'm talking about. We have a few county parks, but for the most part, we have totally developed a concrete jungle. Now, my encounter with the scamdemic in full swing, late September, early October 2021, my wife and I had fallen on hard times. We were living in our SUV parked in the front yard of a friend. We were homeless. But it wasn't a big deal. We were minimalists anyway. Now, the person's home we are staying at had about 15 cats outside, which the lady would feed daily. Not to mention the 17 cats inside. Yeah, the neighborhood cat lady. Hence why we lived outside in the SUV. Now there are possum and coons around, especially since she would leave dried cat food in bowls outside for the cats. So every evening the coon and possum would help themselves to a free meal. Well, for about 2 weeks we would hear the raccoons at night, 1:30 to 3 a.m., creating a huge ruckus, and it would wake us up. The first time I heard it, I knocked myself out, jumping up out of sleep and hitting the roof of the SUV. Now it would go on for a few, then quiet down. This happened every night, and it got old quick. I went to Walmart and got a slingshot and some ammo. When it would happen, I would step out of the SUV and sling a few shots their way in the trees to scare them off and get back to sleep. On and on it happened, every night, same time. I would always use a headlamp and eye shine the raccoons and try to chase them off. Well, I had recently gotten a new cell phone that had a decent night vision camera built in. Here's where stuff went sideways for me. The usual racket commenced, so I got out, but with the phone, not slingshot, and started to scan the old oak tree out in front where the raccoons resided. As I did, I was not prepared for what I saw. About 35 to 40 feet in the tree above the house on the main branch is a raccoon nest. As I aimed the phone, I could see eye shine. Not unusual, but then I remembered no headlamp, just the phone. These eyes were also an amber color, not the blue-green I would usually see. I snapped a couple of pictures because everything was quiet, like they were expecting a lot of shots coming their way to shut them up. The amber eyes didn't seem right to me. I'm 46 years old and grew up in your neck of the woods, Corning, Elmira, upstate New York, so I've hunted and fished my entire life. I've seen lots of animals, and yet these eyes just didn't sit right with me. So I zoomed in and snapped a couple more pictures. Then it happened. I had cold chills running through me. Looking at me was a Dogman that basically looks like the close-up you use as a thumbnail a lot. Jet black, squinting in the tree, bent down about to catch a coon out its nest. The best look in the coon's eyes was that he was about to be on a milk carton. It was coon 411. Now, as I'm looking at the picture, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm in the city. I was never expecting to see this. Well, I was in disbelief, but said aloud, enjoy the nosy little sucker and have the good rest of the night. I got back into the SUV, grabbed my Glock 20 SF Gen 3 10mm. I was not getting out of this SUV, but screw that, it wasn't coming in. I racked around and my wife asked what was wrong with you. You can't shoot that cannon off in the middle of the night in the neighborhood. The cops will be here in seconds. I shakenly just handed her my phone with the pictures. Her eyes got as big as golf balls, and she reached down and grabbed my Smith & Wesson MP40 shield, and we sat in utter silence. Jeff, I've always believed in cryptids, but never expected to see one in the suburbs of St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, it never showed any aggression toward me, nor did it bother our SUV, but I was ready. Now, I can give you more details if you wish to contact me. All right, guys, so I've got this subscriber's phone number, and I am going to give him a holler. See what's up, see if he's got those pics. Hopefully he does, and see if he's willing to come on and talk about this evening that he had, because to me it sounds very frightening. Sometimes you can, here's the gist of everything, okay? There are encounters that I don't buy, and there are encounters that I just boom, like that. Now, you have to as you guys know, when you hear an encounter, you're like, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? Why didn't they do this? Or just certain things in the encounter or their description of the encounter. Well, I really buy this story because the way he is trying to mix in comedy, like missing 411 raccoon and, other things, little things like that. Because once you have an encounter, your brain is just like, what did I see? What just happened? How do I mentally get past this? So I'm actually looking forward to sending this text out to this guy and hopefully getting him on the show with the pics. Today's third encounter is another subscriber encounter. This is my encounter, and to this day, I can still see the creature in my mind. I live in the United Kingdom, and I was staying at my grandparents' house one night, July of 2009. Back in those days, they lived in a bungalow just off of Inlaby Road. It was 1 a.m, and I was sleeping in the front room. I was reading a book. What's ironic is it was a horror novel called Lord Loss. I was just about to switch off the light when all of a sudden my head swung around, and that's when I saw it. Walking past the window was a shadow of a figure. What was strange was that its head of a wolf in the body of a human. The hands were not normal. They were claws, and they were curled around about 30 centimeters long. I was terrified. I didn't know what it was. It walked by without looking in. What is strange about this is the head was barely visible from the window. It was only many years later, after attending a UFO conference and on the way home listening to Dogman encounters, did the penny drop as to what the creature was. Since that point, I started researching Dogman, and this year I set up my own YouTube channel, Expedition Dogman, in order to share what I've learned. This leads me on to my second story. In July, just gone by, me and a friend went to the Bromston Drain to track down the old stinker, the beast of Bromston Drain. So, when we got there, we played some Dogman howls to try to get the creature out. Unfortunately, we couldn't, but we did find a footprint and a den. As we were shooting footage of the den, we heard a growl. In the field opposite of the drain was horses. They got spooked and tried to block off the nearby bridge. It was only a couple weeks later I sent the footage to a friend in America, and he sent it back and said you can clearly see it hiding in the trees. This is my tale, and to those of you listening, these creatures are very much real. Please be careful if you do see a Dogman. And I'm going to be reaching out to this person as well to see if they want to come on. This one, both of these sound very interesting to me. Today's fourth encounter. Ironically enough, I was just watching a old TV show about the area that this encounter happened, and the encounter is, or the area of the encounter is known to have a large amount of sightings of different creatures and things that we don't normally think about when we think about cryptozoology. So, on with the encounter. I moved to Linden, Tennessee, Perry County, a year ago with my kids, a widow just trying to live off the grid on a homestead. We would hear howls, knocks, and such, but we thought nothing of it. The locals refused to come to our little homestead. Eventually, we did find someone who would deliver hay, but only in daylight hours. Occasionally, we would see a white blur or have a heavy rock land our way, but nothing serious. However, a new neighbor moved in about 20 acres down from us. This neighbor was having horrendous events happening on their property. Dead animals, damaged property, and such. They've been coming to us asking us to check it out. I have and cannot explain what is terrorizing them. However, they do drink and smoke a lot, so I chopped it up to that. My son mentioned it to a local man who he works with. The man turned and looked at him straight in the eyes and told him it's the Cherokee Devil. I had to look that one up. We just kind of blew it off until spring hit this year. We were walking the creek on our property and decided to split up to find the spring feeding it. My 22-year-old son begins waving and saying, "Hey, wait up for me." I look and realize he is not facing toward me. I look and swear I see what looks like a whitish-grayish Sasquatch turn and head towards my son. I yell to my son, "Hey, I'm over here and that's not me." My son books it to me because I have a gun and a mama. The thing looks at me and just stares. I tell it, "Leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. I have no issues with you, just with people." I don't want people coming here trying to hurt it because it's never touched any of my animals. If any of our animals pass away due to weather or such, we throw the carcass to where we know it sleeps. I'm just curious if anyone else has heard of this creature and what they know about it. I have spoken with local Cherokee here, and they seem surprised that it's left me alone. The gravel haulers have what's called a churn pit here. Apparently, this devil has busted up their equipment and damaged dump trucks to the point where they've had to replace several of them. They've placed traps and security and haven't caught it yet. I hope they don't. I noticed it only starts up when they start dynamiting the ridge. Sorry, but I am rooting for the Cherokee Devil. Now, for those of you who don't know, I was watching, actually it was American Underground or something like that on the History Channel. And according to Cherokee lore, Kala, or the slant-eyed or sloping giant, also known as the Cherokee Devil, is a legendary figure in the Cherokee mythology who plays the role of the great lord of the game, the master of the hunt and such. It is supposedly there are locations in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina where this creature has supposedly marked. There's a rock made of soapstone in North Carolina, and this creature has 7 fingers, and supposedly this creature jumped. It's going to sound far-fetched, but it's old Cherokee lore. Some 7 to 8 miles it launched itself in. But once again, lore. That happened a long time ago, but this soapstone in North Carolina has all of these hieroglyphs in it, and it's truly an amazing thing to see. This stone, it's all cordoned off, and you can kind of look down at it, and being at soapstone, it holds in heat. So when you look at it at night, you're looking at these like really cool ancient hieroglyphs, and you're getting this heat coming back at you. And that rock is called Judakala rock. It's just a really fascinating historical legend lore. Judakala was the slant-eyed giant that lived in the Balsam Mountains. He guarded his hunting grounds from his judgment seat, known today as the Devil's Courthouse, along the Blue Ridge Highway. All fascinating, Cherokee lore, but you've got this creature or creatures that resemble a Sasquatch and resemble a Dogman that lurks in those areas. So maybe these are offspring. Who knows? I don't know. And I don't really like making assumptions because when I do, they're usually wrong. So, but very interesting stuff to look up and read. So. Now, the final part of the upload is actually a encounter shared by a person that I look up to. She's a veterinarian. She has studied Bigfoot in their DNA. She has had a lot of mud slung her way throughout this, which I can empathize with because I have as well. But this woman is very, very helpful in the cryptozoological world. Dr. Melba Ketchum. Now, she doesn't really believe in Dogman, but does believe in Sasquatch.
Anyway, my own experience as a non-believer in Dogman came a while back. The first report was actually the person that helps feed my animals. He was pulling down to the lease and going, it's a dirt road leading to it, and it's pretty heavily wooded. This man is retired military. He's no nonsense, and he didn't believe in the forest people whenever we started this whole thing, but he's seen enough now that he has to agree that there's something there. But he, as he was pulling down the road, he had a first-hand encounter with Dogman, and it was standing bipedally in the middle of the dirt road as he was driving toward it, and he was just dumbfounded. He said it looked like a giant black wolf, and it was just standing there, and it stared at him, and then it took just one giant leap about 30 feet into the woods and disappeared. He's not scared of anything, and he was all shook up when I saw him, and related the story to me. So, I mean, I didn't doubt him because there's been too many reports of these things, but it was just strange of all the things that he would see. I expected him maybe to see one of the Sasquatch at one point, but he surprised me with this story, and I could tell. I mean, he's an honest person anyway, but he was he didn't know what to think. He was upset. He knew that he had never seen any creature be able to do what this thing did. First of all, he'd never seen a wolf-like creature staring at him bipedally, and he'd never seen anything take that type of leap from a standstill in an upright position. So I didn't think a whole lot about it, other than it was kind of remarkable. But the very next day, I was out checking the horses, and I saw this creature running quadrupedally across the pasture. He was abnormally fast. I mean, he looked like just a giant wolf. much big. We don't have wolves here in East Texas. We have coyotes, and we have some coyote dog mix type things running around. We call them canids. But I've never. There's the red wolf used to inhabit this area, and it's no longer here. So we don't have anything near that big or black, and certainly not that big, and not that fast. I've not seen any animal travel that fast in this area, and it was broad daylight in both of these sightings, and it was running across the pasture really fast. And I was actually in my vehicle whenever I saw it, and I was turning onto the dirt road to leave out from the lease, and as I was going along the road, it didn't have anywhere to go because it was, I lost sight of it for just a second, but it was just behind a tree, and I saw it run through a barbed wire fence. It didn't even slow down, and it was headed toward a mesh fence, and the mesh fence should have, it had to turn one way or the other. And so as I pulled out onto the dirt road, the thing just vanished. It had to have turned left or right, but it didn't. It just was gone, and I didn't see any more of it. It was pretty amazing. And I pondered it, and the day, I guess it was 2 days later, I went out. I have a couple of dogs that live out there, and one of them is in a yard type situation, and the other one is loose because it's not near the pavement. And the dog that was loose, I found in the dog pen, and he was dead, and there was no way for him to get into that pen. And the same gentleman that takes care of the animals, we both were looking at it, and it had been killed with surgical precision. It was the doggonest thing I've ever seen. Having a degree in veterinary medicine, I've performed a lot of postmortems, but this was, like I say, with surgical skill. It was laid completely flat open, and all of the organs were removed with the exception of the downside lung and the heart and the stomach. The rest of all of the organs were completely gone. The side of the abdomen was gone, and the upside of the ribs were gone, and the limbs were disarticulated, so it was laid out flat like a pancake. The interesting thing about the ribs was they were removed and cut almost like you had taken a bandsaw and just cut through them in a straight line. And they were not smooth like a saw. They were shattered where they were cut, but it was in a straight line. And that just doesn't happen in nature. And there were huge canine teeth imprints in the body where it had been chewed upon. And like I say, it was just completely, the body cavity was just completely exposed from the top side up. Obviously this was not the fault of the other dog, nor was it the fault of anything I've ever seen. Like I say, it was almost like a cattle mutilation, except that I did find teeth marks on the down near the hind legs. So I was really upset about this, and so I should have taken pictures, and I didn't. I just was too upset. And so I was worried that there was other damage to be found, and sure enough there was. I've been told tales by habituators that sometimes some of these beings, whatever they are, will rape a horse. And as I was checking the livestock, I came across one of my gray mares, and she was bleeding from her back end, and she was just exceptionally upset, and so much so that I really couldn't examine her. She wanted to fight, and she had kicked so much that she had had hurt both of her hocks, and they were swollen. So whatever had done this, I mean, I don't know the Dogman did it, but I suspicion he did, because there's no other explanation for such strange things happening. And fortunately, the horse recovered, but like I say, it was a strange and horrifying story. I don't know how to categorize this exactly. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have had more experience with dogmen than I have. I mean, this was just this one chance sighting that I had and that the farm help had. But the fact that it injured and killed animals just makes me think that they're bad. And, like I say, a lot of people will tell me that, these forest people won't stay around whenever these things are around. And I did not notice any activity for a week or so around this time from the forest people. So I think that there may be something to that.
All right, folks, a lot of just amazing information with some terrifying experiences. I hope you all enjoyed this early morning or middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is honestly your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives us all a place to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. That is all because of you, so thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.